And Ms. Washington, you have the floor.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 4:17, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. Stephanie, would you mind doing a roll call, please? Okay.
What's that?
Here.
You're going to? Here. Tomorrow. Christie Gonzalez.
Here.
Meredith Porter.
Here.
Lamar Meta. Tony Pianta. Eric Taylor. Vivi, sorry, Ramona Washington.
Here.
Vivian Webb.
Here.
Bill.
Hello, here.
Will. And you have.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Before we get started, I just want to remind you all of a few rules for committee members and members of the public attending in person. Please raise your hand to speak and wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking. To help the meeting run smoothly, please keep side conversations to a minimum and comments related to the topic we are discussing. For those committee members who are attending virtually, remember you must speak on camera and have your first and last name shown to be counted toward our quorum. Please keep microphones muted unless called upon by the chair. Electronically raise your hand to request to speak and wait to be called on by the chair. Once recognized by the chair, your microphone will be turned on. After speaking, the microphone will be returned to mute. Also, the Q&A is only to be used by those needing an ADA accommodation to participate in the meeting. Public comment will not be accepted via the Q&A except for those individuals who requested the accommodation. As for order, committee members in person and virtually will be allowed to speak first. Public members in person will then be called on, followed by public participating virtually who have their hands raised. As with all hybrid meetings, it can be difficult to keep track of all of those wanting to speak in person and virtually. Please be patient. All comments and questions from committee members and the public may be limited should we run into time constraints. So please keep that in mind. Also, comments about a person's character would not be allowed. Finally, members of the public will have an opportunity to provide public comment before each vote and during designated public comment period. Public members will be given one opportunity to speak for each agenda item and will be limited to 2 minutes. The chair may also use their discretion to determine if comments will be accepted outside of those times. All right, that's approval for the April meeting summary. I was in the back, okay. All right. Everyone should have reviewed the April meeting summary, which is linked in the agenda you received via email. There's also a copy in your committee packet. I need a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Due to the new regulations on open meetings law, we will need to do a roll call vote. Stephanie, can you please take the roll call vote?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to be loud so they can hear me on the camera.
So, a vote for yes is to accept the meeting, the April meeting minutes. And a vote for no is not to accept those meeting minutes. So Ms. Bayham?
Yes.
Ms. Bayham, yes. Mr. Boynton?
Yes.
Mr. Boynton, yes. Mr. Ennis? Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez, yes. Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan, yes. Dr. Meta? Mr. Pianta? Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, yeah. Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Webb, yeah. Dr. Wilson?
Yes.
Dr. Wilson, yes? We have 7 yeses, so, the motion passes. Your evidence.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. The April meeting summary is passed by unanimous consent. First on the agenda is an update on LRS. We'll now have Melissa Van from Louisiana Rehabilitation Services get us started.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I will start my update with pre-employment transition services, or as some people just known as PREETs. I met with the pre-employment transition services vendors, maybe about a month or so ago, just to let them know that we might have a potential reduction in units for the 26-27 school year. We've had an uptick in expenditures, year over year. And so unless we get additional funds next state fiscal year, we will be at the point where we'll have to reduce those units, but I wanted to make sure that I notified them ahead of time, so that they can prepare. And some of these vendors have quite a bit of participation in the school districts, and so they need to make sure that the school know that, so that they'll know how often they'll be attending those classes or having those classes. We are in the process of trying to procure 4 PREET staffing contracts. So I know we've talked in this committee and in this meeting and any meeting that I'm in about the staffing at LRS. We are still significantly understaffed. We have about 23 vacancies in terms of official vacancies that are funded at this point. And so one mechanism that we want to try to explore to assist us with this is some staffing contracts. And these contractors will exclusively be assigned to pre-employment transition services. In other words, the activities that my counselors and my counselor associates are doing now will be done by the contractor. So that's going out to the school districts, taking the applications, authorizing services, attending IEP meetings. The rehab counselors that are staffed on those contracts would be performing those duties. So right now I have, we're actively in the process of contracting with Easter Seals for Region 7, so that's the Shreveport region, and Families Helping Families of Greater New Orleans for Region 1. So we are in the process. We are getting the contracts ready to go to legal and all the things that it has to do, with the hopes that we could start those contracts on October the 1st. We're also still trying to identify contractors for Baton Rouge and Monroe. So, and if these contracts go well, I mean, we could potentially do this throughout the state, but the need is more in certain regions than others, depending on the size of the region, the staffing in that particular region. But those are the 4 regions that we're starting with as regions 1, 2, and 7 and 8. So that's my update for pre-employment transition services. For career services, we have increased provider rates for many of our career services. The details of that you'll see tomorrow in my full report. But one example, job search assistance increased from 20 units to 40 units, because we know that the time it takes for job development is sometimes a lot longer than 20 hours. So we wanted to make sure that we compensated our vendors for that. And there's a lot of blind services vendor rates that have been increased, but that is detailed in the report that I have tomorrow. One thing that we did add was a high quality indicator payment for placing individuals in rural communities. That has been a need for some time. It's something that our vendors have expressed a need or for some extra compensation because of the difficulty in finding those employment opportunities. So we did add a rate for that, so they can be compensated for that. I also conducted vendor focus group meetings a couple of weeks ago. I had 4 I had asked for, basically volunteers who wanted to participate, and I had so many vendors who wanted to participate, that in order for them, I felt to be able to actively participate, I wanted to make sure that those groups weren't too large, so I did have 4 of those. Depending on which region you were in, with which session you were in. It was very productive. We are hoping to have better communication with our providers and improve our collaboration to improve the quality of our employment outcomes for our individuals with disabilities. And so I wanted to make sure that we opened the lines of communication. There was nothing that was expressed to me that was surprising. However, I want to make sure that I'm able to hear directly from the providers and make sure that we are addressing their needs. And one thing that consistently comes up, no matter which venue I'm in, is consistency. And so we have been making strides to try to improve consistency within LRS. We've done some statewide trainings. We're doing more statewide communications instead of relying on our regional managers to make sure that that information gets pushed down. As well as my state office community rehab program staff are doing more of the training and the communication with the providers in lieu of the regional offices. And that also helps them because they're under, so that takes that their plate. The last thing that I will mention, there was a little bit of a lull in our hiring because of the state hiring freeze, but we are actively recruiting for a couple of state office positions, but primarily for rehabilitation counselor positions. We have 11 vacancies that are funded at this point, and so we are those are posted or have been posted. A couple of those postings have expired, or that's not the right word. They've ended. So we are in the process of getting the list from those from civil service, and then there are some still up there on the civil service website. And as we get vacancies, we will continue to post those. Now that the state hiring freeze is over, it's easier for us to turn those over a little bit quicker. I'm also scheduled to meet again with our human resources department to continue to pursue a special entrance rate for our rehab counselors to help that recruiting effort. So those are all of my updates, but I'm happy to take any questions. Yes, ma'am.
In regards to LRS, I have some parents contacted me, about the LRS, caseworkers were asking that the students get a psychological evaluation.
So you're talking about pre-ed students who, I'm sorry.
Like, going to college. They're out of high school and they were requesting they get a psychological evaluation.
I have to know some specifics on it, but sometimes, I mean, if we don't have medical for someone, we will send them for assessments ourselves to get the medical that we need to determine eligibility.
Okay.
And we also do vocational evaluation, and one of our vocational evaluations, is a psychologist, so that could get confusing as well.
Okay.
Because it could be a vocational evaluation, not a psychological evaluation.
Okay.
It just,
Okay.
it's possible.
All right. Thank you.
I have a question. You spoke on being understaffed. I just wanted to know like what training or accountability systems you guys have in place to ensure like the LRS staff is still following through with their roles and expectations.
So we have several things. So we probably a couple of years ago, we procured a learning management software called Yes LMS. And so what that has allowed us to do is we have on-demand training. So this training could be from the contractor, which is so it's vocational rehabilitation training. However, we also can put training on that platform. So when we have a new counselor on board, we have trainings already in that system, and they go and they and they are in those systems. We also, especially for new counselors, they have district supervisors who are supposed to be working closely with them to learn their positions. Now, the district supervisor position is also one that we don't have as many as we should. So one thing that we are actually putting in place is, called independent approval status. So right now, any case movement, eligibilities, plans, they will require supervisory approval. So we're allowing, our master counselors and our rehab counselors, not our entry counselors, to be able to do those things independently, to free up some of that time for the district supervisors to be able to spend more time with the entry level counselors to learn their positions. The rehab counselor position is very complicated. And it's even more complicated when you're short staffed because you don't have any specialties. So for example, when I was a rehab counselor, the first couple of years I was what we call a general counselor, which pretty much all my counselors are general counselors now. But after that, I was in a developmental disabilities caseload. So that was my specialty. All of my clients had a developmental disability. So I was able to specialize in that. I was able to learn about waivers and all this social security and all these things. Whereas all of my counselors now have to work with all individuals with disabilities, which can be complicated. I keep saying the word complicated, but as a rehab counselor, I never did a vehicle modification because I wasn't in a caseload. I wasn't in a traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury caseload. But now my counselors have to learn how to do everything. They have to know how to do vehicle mods, home modifications, training, support employment, time limited job coaching, short-term job supports now, assistive technology, prosthetics, orthotics. Like they have to know all of these things. And we're not getting a lot of applicants that are coming from rehab counseling backgrounds. So they may be in criminal justice or social work or some of these similar disciplines, but it takes some time to learn vocational rehabilitation. It's not something that you're gonna come and in a month, you're gonna be proficient in everything that you need to do, if that makes sense.
So how does that impact service delivery and timeliness to families?
It impacts it greatly. So my counselors are doing the best that they possibly can. But it does take us longer to do things. One thing that I know I've expressed to you is that one mechanism that we can put in place because of our staffing shortages is we can go on order selection, which means that we would have a waiting list. But that's not something that I want to do. So individuals and families are having to wait longer for services, but they have access to the services. Whereas if we go on order of selection, then they'll go on a waiting list until our staffing gets to the point where we are able to work with people more.
So in your opinion, what is the pros and cons of this? I'm sure families have to be disgruntled when this happens, even though they may not have awareness that you are short-staffed. So how do you guys maneuver through those times if you're short-staffed and your customers, which is, if they're not receiving their services, how do you guys deal with that? Is that top management or is the staff dealing with that on their level?
It's everybody. It's from me to the rehab counselors, to the counselor associates who are taking some of the phone calls. I mean, it impacts everybody.
So what do you guys have in place to really address that? Is that gonna be, like, what do you guys have in place to address these things? Cause it's just,
I
I
mentioned
think you kind of mentioned, okay, go ahead.
I mentioned that we're putting individuals on independent approval status. We're starting to take applications from my office. I'm going to train somebody on taking applications because that's where we are. I'm going out taking VR applications. We continue to provide training, as I said, we provide, we're trying everything that we possibly can. As we can streamline things in our procedure manual, we've been doing that. There's pros and cons to streamline, because then you end up with, services that are not as comprehensive. So I'm trying to make things as easy as I possibly can for our counselors without, taking the value out of the vocational rehabilitation program.
So I'm not.
I have a question. Well,
Go ahead, go ahead, I'll just listen.
well, I mean, I was just gonna follow up, Melissa. I know that the ARC and some other organizations, Families Helping Families, did advocate for LRS to get additional funding, and you guys got that 4 million. Is any of that funding gonna go to like advertising or marketing or some type of recruitment for your voc rehab counselors?
So, to fill the position?
Well, yeah, to fill whatever vacant positions you guys have.
So I know I have a new HR liaison, and so she's been trying to spice up my job postings. Because we don't get, we get applicants, but we don't get a lot of that. And the quality of our applicants, like we don't have, it's not like we have this large pool of great applicants and that we're pulling from. Generally, it's who's applying and who's showing up for the interview, because I don't know if y'all have experienced this, but you either schedule interviews with people and they don't show up. This is just crazy thing. But yeah, we don't get, like, some of the workforce titles for whatever reason, like they'll put out a posting and I get 50 applications. I don't get 50 applications from my rehab counseling posting. I'll be lucky if I get 10. And then they might want $90,000 a year. So we can't do that. So there's a lot of factors in why staffing.
So you're able to hire, y'all are, it's 23 positions y'all have?
We have total, yes.
What do you think is the breakdown? Why aren't you guys able to retain counselors?
Because our caseloads are too high. Our pay is too low. Our counselors start at 17,
$18 an hour?
What is that case though?
It ranges depending on the region, but it's definitely over 100. But also you have to, that doesn't include if they have pre-employment transition service. So counselors can have more than one caseload. They could have a PR caseload and they could have a pre-ex caseload. And pre-ex is wonderful, but it's taken a toll, which is why we're trying these contracts. Because in addition to the work that we already had, pre-WIOA, now we have to arrange services with every school district in Louisiana. It's not, they're all different. The vendors are different. Some we have contracts in, some we have vendors in, some, it's a lot of administrative work that we're having to do just on pre-employment transition services on top of the full, which everybody knows of as vocational rehabilitation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, good. Thank you, go ahead.
So, y'all waiting list, where is that now, since you don't have?
We don't have a wait. I could make a wait, but I have not done.
So even, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
even with the 4 million, is it 40 million or 4 million?
Well,
Okay.
It's 4 million in state.
Yeah,
general.
I'm sorry, I lost your train. We greatly appreciate, I don't want anybody to think, we greatly appreciate the $4 million. But that $4 million allowed us not, like, we were about to go on a waiting list regardless of our staffing because of our funding. So that $4 million, which actually, when you pull down the federal funds, is 18.4 million, I believe. It was a Band-Aid. Like, in order for us to be in order for us to be fully funded, we would have needed $19 million and we got a little under 12. So it's great, but it's still, we're still a lot short. And that's got to get too deep in the weeds. I can, if y'all want me to, but you know, your state fiscal year, and your federal fiscal year, are two different fiscal years. So so the state fiscal year just started, but the federal fiscal year ends September 30th. Oh, that's okay. So we're still, this federal fiscal year that's ending September 30th, we're still relinquishing or sending back $30 million because you have to spread that state general fund over the state fiscal year, not the federal fiscal year. And you have to be able to spend the state funds to draw down the federal funds. So we're still gonna relinquish $30 million this federal fiscal year, which ends September 30th, or approximately 30 million.
Okay, anybody else say anything? Okay, in regards to post-secondary education, could you explain like, what we talked about as far as the moving forward? Because there's just a lot of miscommunication when it comes to that, and I just want clarity on that. That way we're able to, you know, if we ever come into, someone that wants to know or this, because it's just, you know, it's just a lot of hearsay and things like that. So could you please give them the same clarity that you gave me?
The issue with coming board, first of all, you have to remember that all of your services are individualized. So I can't tell you everybody who attends this program gets this, and this, because all services are individualized. So room and board, and this is a federal regulation, we can't pay for, I don't want to get too technical. If you are within commuting distance of your university or college, we don't pay for maintenance. Well, room and board, we call maintenance. So we have made some additional provisions for the CTP programs, the comprehensive transition programs. That if an individual needs the residential component, then we can pay for the residential component if that's needed for that particular individual. But it's not, I can't tell you what service every student's gonna get because it's individualized.
Well, I didn't ask that, I asked about room and board,
But
like what
room and
is,
board, it's the commuting distance. So if you live, the general rule, unless you have an exception, is that if you live within commuting distance to a college or university that meets your needs, meaning if you want to go into accounting, if you live within 20 miles of a school that offers accounting, then, but you choose to go to a school 100 miles away, we're still not paying for room and board because that was your choice to go to a school that wasn't in commuting distance. I think it increased commuting distance to 30 miles.
Let me interject, I don't think that if you recall, our communication as far as single share.
Oh,
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm sorry. So that's the double occupancy. So things have changed in dorm rooms since when I was in college, and it's been very confusing as to what double occupancy means. And so that has been clarified. So in these dorm rooms, now there could be rooms with doors on them, with locks, but still has a shared space, and that's considered double occupancy. It's only single occupancy if there's one door, one room, and only you're in that room. But a lot of these dorms, there were so many different configurations, it was confusing to staff. Right, they thought it had the room, had a door, and a lock, and that was single occupancy, but that should have.
Any other questions for Melissa? All right, thanks, Melissa. Before we go to the next one, hi, Mr. Field. I hadn't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Next on the agenda is an update from Louisiana. Okay, I'm sorry.
If it's okay with the chair and the committee and Meredith, I would like to go before she does the legislative update. Because I don't want her to steal my thunder. The deal that we already. I'm sorry. Oh, is it okay to cheer?
That's awesome that we're all fighting to. Yes, it's okay.
Some good people.
Yes. So I don't know who's here for the self-determination and community inclusion committee, but Brenton did bring up Lacan's and the council's advocacy agenda, and we were very successful in all three of our agenda items. The third item that we added probably in March or so was the education bill that focused specifically on seclusion and restraint in response to the legislative audit that came out in December. So the council in Lacan helped to write a new law. It is now Act 479. And that new law makes sure that seclusion and restraint in schools is used safely and only when needed. So Act 479 does some amazing things, and I kind of wanted to highlight some of those things. So this is a huge one. This is something that the council worked on for, I know, since I started, so that's been 7 years. Schools have to put the cameras in the special education classrooms. Now, even if a parent doesn't ask, they have the funding and now they're required to put those cameras in the self-contained special education classrooms.
Is there a time limit?
I think there
Yeah.
was.
2026.
Okay,
Okay.
February.
February.
Yeah.
Ours lovely are already put up, thank you very much. Personal parishes are making it very hard. So I wanted to see if they had a time limit.
So if for everyone online, Miss Gonzalez Landry just asked if there was a time limit or a time frame when the cameras had to be installed, and it is February 1st, 2026. Thank you, Mary. But it also, the bill also clearly explains what seclusion, and that means putting the student alone in a room, and physical restraint, holding the student still mean, and it defines when they can be used. Teachers will have to be trained on how to handle those tough situations and behaviors called crisis intervention as part of becoming a teacher. Only trained staff can use physical restraint unless there's an emergency. If a student is secluded or restrained, they have to be checked out by either a school nurse or another health staff person on the same day that the seclusion or restraint happens. Parents have to be told during the IEP meetings that they can say no to seclusion and restraint. So this was one that was already in law, but I don't think anybody knew about it. So it is clearly stated in there that during the IEP meetings, parents have to be notified that they can say no to their child being restrained or secluded. If there is a video of seclusion or restraint, it will be watched to make sure that the rules in the bill are being followed or were followed. Parents must be told the same day if their child was secluded or restrained. And if a child is secluded or restrained, this is a good one, more than twice a year, their behavior plan has to be updated. That used to be 5 times. And so we reduced that number to 2. 2 times in a year, they have to put it in, their behavior plan has to be updated. If a student is held for more than 3 minutes in 1 hour, it can be called physical restraint. I don't have the specifics on what that was before, Mary. I don't know if you do.
There wasn't a time limit before. It's
Okay.
kind of clarified. If there's any, concrete touch or anything that's less than 3 minutes, that's not considered a restraint. So that was just clarification that was just added.
Thanks for the clarification. Schools must include clear rules about reporting when seclusion and restraint happens in all of their policies. And specifically, they have to include the timeframes for reporting and what specifically has to be included in that report. And if you go and read the bill, there are very specific things in the bill about what they have to include in those reports. Schools have to share their rules every year with the Special Education Advisory Councils or the CX. And they have to give a copy of the policies to the parents. So, I just want to give a huge thank you to Representative Mack, Senator Mizell, who was on the Senate side, who carried the bill, and all of the co-authors for helping, us get this new or this revised and improved law updated. I also want to give a really special thank you to all the advocates, in Lacan who wrote their legislators or made those phone calls, came to our, Yellow Shirt Days. And I specifically want to shout out our very own council member, Ms. Vivian Webb, and her brother Caden Webb. They were, very instrumental in giving like very compelling testimony during the committees that the bill was heard in. So I just want to, give Vivian a big clap. I also want to thank, and I don't know who's on right now, but I do want to thank our Lacan leaders who worked very hard this session in getting their Lacan members to come out to our Yellow Shirt Days when the bill was being heard in committees. But overall, for their great work this entire legislative session. I don't know who was present in the self-determination committee earlier, but we had a 20% increase in participation on our action alerts and our Yellow Shirt Days from last year to this year. So I just want to give the Lacan leaders a huge shout out for all of their hard work, because that increase can directly be attributed to their hard work. So I just want to shout them out as well. And of course, lastly, I just want to thank all the partners that worked with the City Council on this bill, the Parkland, Louisiana, Disability Rights Louisiana, the Louisiana Association of Public Charter Schools, our very own Mayor Jordan from the Louisiana Department of Education, and the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, RBC. So I thank all of them for partnering with us on this bill. It makes some greater changes, and I just wanted to make sure I shared that before Mayor. So,
All right, any questions, concerns?
I'm just so glad they put a date on it.
Vivian, you have the floor.
Welcome back, Mr. Hill. We missed you.
All right, anybody else? All right, Meredith?
There is a question online, from Ms. Brenda Kose. Okay, she should be able to unmute, Ms. Kose.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, regarding the seclusion and restraint information, did the bill increase training, change training or anything like that? Or who can speak to who does the training for the
Yeah.
schools? Is Meredith Jordan there?
You know it. Thank you, Brenda. Hey,
Okay,
ma'am.
I'll hold.
Perfect timing. So, yes, there are two trainings, so the bill doesn't require it. So the bill said the department may offer. What we've done is committed to our stakeholders, to everybody who came together with that we're going to offer that training. The reason that all of our stakeholders wrote it in that way is so that it wouldn't get hung up with a fiscal note in session. We've committed to that. We are already in conversation with our vendors, so we are gonna offer statewide 2 levels of training. So one is going to be general, which is gonna help all educators, honestly. General behavior de-escalation, setting up your classroom structures to support student behavior, that will be offered to all educators. The other set of training is what we call the smaller set of training, which is really geared toward your crisis intervention teams. So those people who, one, encounter students with these types of struggles where you may use those types of techniques. And two, the administrators or other people on those crisis teams who are called in such emergency, right? To help in those situations. So we're going to offer a set of seats to ensure that every school system has, and we kind of have a formula for this. We kind of looked at our larger school systems obviously need more people trained. And we're gonna deploy what we call a train the trainer model. So where we get folks who are trained as CPI instructors, they can then go out and train additional people. So this could get really costly over time with turnover if we don't deploy it correctly. And so those are the two levels of training, Miss Brenda, and I am hoping to deploy those this fall as soon as possible, because I know that it's going to be helpful. Even the behavior de-escalation for all educators, all school leaders will be able to have access. We're even going to, I've been working with our early childhood team, even offering it to our lead agencies and our early childhood networks. So getting those folks trained as well, even with our younger students who may have some of those similar challenges, and offering them to be able to participate in that as well. So absolutely the training is coming. On top of that, the bill does now require that any teachers coming out of any educator preparation program also have built into their teacher coursework that same sort of behavior de-escalation type training. So we're going to open that up to our preparation program providers so that new teachers and teachers who are in college can get that support and get that training, which is important to support the people who our next generation of educators, to make sure that we prevent some of all of this, right? And we make sure they come out with the skills that they need to support behavior in their classroom. So I hope that answers your question. A little bit windy, but.
Thank you, and a quick comment. Yes, for preschool early intervention programs, like when they're 3 years old and go into the school systems, or they age out of early steps and Head Start and all of that. I do know from all the grade levels, especially the preschool ones, those educators want training. They want to know how to help our children. So they definitely need training, even in the younger category. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brenda. Have anybody else? All right, Jared.
Okay, so I'm gonna expound just a tad bit, just to go to policy and implementation. Ebony did a phenomenal job. And just to add on to what you said, Ebony, like this was the perfect example of everybody coming together with this mission and with this vision and getting us across the finish line. Like this was just really incredible, even as a department, to be a part of, working with you all, working with the advocates and the folks who came and spoke. Just a real testament to what change can happen, right? When we work together, we all have the same vision. So we have already brought and got SEEP endorsement on the policy language. So this particular House Bill 684, now Act 479, will impact two major policies for special education. The first one is Bulletin 1706, which is where all of the seclusion and restraint language lives. So we brought that policy update in alignment with the law, to C and got the endorsement on that language. We also brought, 741 is our handbook for school administrators. That is where the SEEK requirements lie. So we had to put in the pieces about what's now reported to SEEK that Ebony mentioned, how many seclusion rooms are there. They now have to report that to the SEEK and to us. And the policies that now have to go to SEEK. So we put all of that in bulletin 741, and the sped camera stuff went into 741. So we changed all of that language now that says special education cameras, that, provide audio and video, all of that language went into 741, without parent request. So all of that's been changed. Both of those bulletins are going to August Bessie. So we're really, really fast in terms of getting this in place. To Christy's point, with all of the different timelines that are in that bulletin. And the faster we got language to Bessie, the faster our school systems will move to update their local policy and procedure, because they now have to change both their seclusion and restraint policy, and they're gonna have to change their special education camera policy and procedure, right?
For example, we had to put, signs on the outside of our door, cameras for session or something.
Yeah.
So how we bring cameras in our classroom, I don't even notice them anymore. I mean, to be honest, at first I was like, oh my gosh, I have to watch what, no, if you doing what you're supposed to do,
Exactly.
you do not, I mean, I have to tell, like, I have a new power. I just have to let you know, we do have cameras in the classroom.
Yeah.
You know, but you forget about it. I don't have any qualms with it or anything like that. As a teacher, I was kind of nervous at first, but it was just like having eyes on you, but really, is they just there to protect us too, because there's audio as well.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sorry.
No, you're correct.
No, I'm finished.
So like, if you have a camera in your class, and you don't have something that, like, you don't have the parents that
Consent.
know, is, I would assume, like, if the student blurs out.
Yeah, so there's a lot of privacy too that goes into place with audio and video for students. So not everyone, first, and we have to clarify this a lot of times. So the cameras are not like live feed, like there's no one,
Sitting there.
sitting behind watching. So, and most of them have policies in place where you can request to see the video if something has happened or you suspect something has happened. But in order to protect other students' privacy, they do have to have, you can only show them their child, right? So the school system has to have software that blurs out images of other students, right, to protect. And the law and policy does say that that you do, which is why how school systems are buying the signage that posts, hey, there's a video that's both recording audio and visual, is because the law and state policy says you have to notify all of the other parents, which.
And they sent letters home, letters were sent home, parents signed it.
You do have to notify them if they're being.
Because
They're being put on.
I still do see both sides of the, like, cause I'm a big, like, privacy person. Like, but I mean, also like, all the points y'all have made, like, are phenomenal points.
But your point is not a bad one. So a school system would have to work with a parent. If a parent says, absolutely not, I do not want my child recorded, they would have to work to find a setting where there is no camera and that child's not recorded. So your point is not, is important to make, because there could be instances where school systems are gonna have to work with parents, if there's a parent that says, I don't want my child recorded. And we may have to work with that or provide any guidance to schools, so it doesn't, it's not unheard, Jill. And I'll say, so a couple of next steps for us, so we got the policy that's going to Bessie. We are also in the process of updating our seclusion and restraint guidance document for school systems, which is also gonna help them update their policies. So we're trying to get that document out as fast as possible. So I wanna make sure that they have the guidance necessary to create policies that are in alignment with, and what are all the requirements that need to be there. I'm also collecting data right now on the camera purchases from this past year, how much money school systems still have, because I mean, that conversation is gonna start happening where school systems are gonna say, wait a minute, what if I run out of money? I've had that with a couple of school systems. And kind of giving them some other options. And also, I need to know that information and collect that data so that if we need to go back to the legislature and say, hey, you know, so-and-so school system, we need a little bit more money, here's what we're short, we can think about that. But also remembering that every year in our state budget, Dr. Brumley has committed an additional $800,000 a year that gets split among all of our school systems that receive that initial funding for maintenance costs. So if a camera breaks, if they need if their software isn't working, they need additional software for something, or the wiring, all of those key issues around technology.
Yeah. They have to come in and rewire those things.
Yes, so we have also committed some of our state general funds to supporting the maintenance of the cameras. So I wanted y'all to know kind of proactively what data we're looking at right now that I'm collecting that might help us if we start hearing, well, wait a minute, I don't have enough to get into all my classrooms. Because remember that original allocation was based on numbers from 2023.
Yeah, in 3 years.
Right, so populations can change, number of classrooms can change, that kind of thing.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
What you just said, it triggered a thought in my head, and I was just curious. For the key pause, is it also based, like, is it based on those 2023 numbers, or is it based, like, is it getting split evenly for up? You get what I'm saying? Okay.
Yes, no, it's not even.
Okay.
It's what you said first. So however much they got based on how many classrooms, because a small school system doesn't need as much money as my Jefferson.
That's what I'm
and
thinking. Right.
And EDR. So it's a percentage of that original.
Okay.
Yep.
And so, I kind of missed what you said at the end, I was typing something, but, so are they going to? So the districts can go in and say, like, oh, we need more because we have a higher influx this year, or is it, do they have to like submit? Like.
So right now, that's a good question, Stephanie. Right now, I'm kind of taking it hearsay, and I have about 3 districts on my list that are saying, hey, I might run out. But I think as we get through this data collection, and as they start planning for that February 1, here's how many classrooms that don't have them, and how many I have to buy, I'm gonna know a little bit more over the coming months. And I think to your point, I may have to release some sort of like official job form that says, how many rooms do you still have that you have left, that you've expended everything, but you don't have enough money for every classroom, how many? And then we can start thinking about how much more money. So I might end up having to do an official gauge of it. Right now, it's like 2 or 3, so I'm just kind of making notes, like, okay, let me put this in the back of my mind so that we can kind of keep track of who making.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have one last question, another thing. Sorry, so if. Okay, let's say, cause there's the maintenance money. So would that be, I know it's for maintenance of the cameras, but let's say that this year I only have 2 self-contained classes. but the next year I now need 3. Could I use that maintenance fund for that additional? Yes, to buy that additional, or is it only for what I currently have?
I'm gonna ask you to let me give you that information.
Okay.
Soon.
Okay.
I have that, because school systems are asking the same thing.
Okay.
Can I use my maintenance money to also buy additional cameras?
Yes.
You know, and I'm like, well, are you maintaining something? So, I have that question to our finance team to see like, what are the restrictions on the maintenance for the state general fund? Could they, if they needed to, tap into that? I know that they could tap into their IDA money. I don't want them to have to, if that makes sense, because I know that question is gonna come through. Yes, they could, but I don't want them to have to, right? If there's another way that we can help support them with it, we would rather do that and not have them take their, additional money from their IDA allocation.
Okay, what happens if the districts do not meet that February date? Or are you guys having any pushback on rules, or what happens when they don't comply with the request?
We've not heard anything negative, I'll be honest. I think sometimes they want us to tell them, or the state legislature to tell them, because if you have the option, right? If it's only for parent requests, that's what I'm gonna do, right? You know, some of our districts, to Chrissy's point, we have several that, and like several of them have told me, like, I don't need, now these are some of our smaller districts, I don't need the maintenance money, we already have cameras. And I'm like, are you sure you don't need maintenance money? Because like, okay, you already have cameras in every class, are you sure? Like, sure, I can take that and we could reallocate that to some of these others who might need it. So it just we're just gonna have to gauge, what over the next couple of months we see the requests come.
And then y'all like extend the date or something, if they don't have it?
Okay, you asked, what happens if they don't? If they don't, we're gonna start hearing from parents, and we would start asking those questions to school systems. We do communicate, like send them reminders, hey, this was the deadline. Obviously, we can't make them, but I haven't had any pushback or any questions it's in state law at this point. So I think the questions are gonna start coming if they start running out of. But usually if it's in state law, and the good thing is we had the money, right? Doesn't mean they're gonna maybe not have enough if they had some population change. So that could be, I think, where pushback comes. So what happens if February 1 gets here and I've used all my money and I've put in every classroom that I can, but I have 3 that I can't because I don't have the money. So they're gonna point back to the law and say that little piece from the original that said if funding is available. So right now they have funding, but what happens if they run out? We would have to figure out how to support them, how to get them some additional money so that they could get it.
Thank you.
Getting back to the cameras, were they given like one person to go through? I'm just asking too, especially for costs. Or were they given a choice or?
No, so they can use anyone on state contracts. We didn't limit any sort of vendor. The reason that we didn't is that would have taken and put a lot of undue burden on school systems. So if I gotta wait and get all these applications from vendor, when we have state vendor lists, most of our school systems have tech people there are, because most of them have cameras in hallways, in lunchrooms, in various other places of the school. They already have contracts, and usually get decent pricing when they do that. So we didn't want to limit their vendor.
Well, getting back to the question you asked about, all the cameras. I know like in my classroom, I only needed 3, but next door needed 4, but she was like 3 feet wider. So not every classroom is gonna need the same amount. So they did have to come in and measure to get those, so where they might have 1 camera left over for the sensory room, or, to manage that. So it just depended on how big the classrooms were as well. It's across the hall.
I got a question that might not, sense when I'm asking anyway, repair, are y'all scared that they say, okay, but you need that for that, and y'all don't make a loophole where they could say, okay, I need. I'm giving me a way to open up to use this, and then I use it what they're supposed to do, do y'all have something planned for that?
So we are tracking, they have to report to us, they have to give us their receipts for the cameras and all their expenditures. So there is a bit of monitoring, Eric. I will say this, in order for speed of getting that money out initially, that money, and because that money can't be, so once you draw away state general fund from the legislature, I'm not using the right terms here. You can't roll that money over. So because this was about parent requests, we knew that school systems probably weren't going to spend that $8 billion in year 1. So we had to get that money to school systems fast. So they already have it. To your point, it is earmarked. Our finance teams, or the finance manager in every school system, is hanging on to that money. And every year they're telling us, how much did you spend? Upload your receipts, and then we calculate what's left. And I kind of know, so when I'm collecting their data right now, I'm collecting on numbers of cameras, I'm also collecting on, tell me how much you've spent. And it's auto calculating for me year to year what they have left. So, there is some monitoring in place for it in terms of having to upload those receipts and matching receipts to their budget, which wasn't necessary, but it was something we put in place for your exact question. Is what is the monitoring? What's the accountability? We could have gave them that money and said, you take care of it, you track it, you spend it on what it's supposed to be spent on. Instead, we made them submit a budget to us, and they're uploading receipts and stuff. Even though it's not on a reimbursement basis, they already have the money. But we wanted that accountability piece, and we wanted them to know we're looking at it, and we know what this money is meant for, and we want to see your receipts so that we can match it to your expense. Good question.
All right. Any other,
I think that's absolutely mostly what I wanted to talk about. I did want to add, because it came to a shock for me. But we also had, interestingly, a line item added to House Bill 1 for another dyslexia pilot. So that is something else that we have to roll out this fall as well. So we'll be letting our school systems know. So as part of our legislative update, I just want to let y'all know, because it was definitely something that wasn't on any of our trackers. It was one of those things that got slipped in somewhere. So we'll be rolling out another dyslexia pilot, which will offer some additional funds to school systems to support dyslexia too. So, and it was a lot, but good discussion.
any other questions or concerns you have on the story? No one? Mr. Field, where you at?
Wow.
I'm at home right now. I'm zoomed in because I was confused. I didn't catch that the committee meetings had changed their time. So anyhow, I'm here and listening intently and very happy to hear about the Act 479. And I know that the council has worked on that for, like Ebony said, for years now. So with our partners at Department of Ed and all the advocacy that's gone on. It sounds like we really can feel like we've got our hands around this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Phil. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Next on the agenda is an update on the contractual activities.
Yes, so this is activity 3.1.5, the transition to adulthood. If you look in your packet or on the screen, I have this little chart. The same thing happened, but I don't know what I'm doing, but somehow I just keep printing it on legal paper. I don't know, so whatever. It's just a little higher than it's right.
If you're using a template from, well, we did, it's my fault.
I am,
Because I
yeah.
couldn't read the sheet.
Okay, yeah. You wanna go with the template?
I like
that. Alright, so this is up to date. They do have a training tomorrow in the New Orleans area, and then they have one additional one in Ruston. They have trainings a total of 18 people, but I do just wanna make sure that y'all, see that there are less trainings for this. It's still statewide, so they travel all over the state, but a lot of our statewide initiatives are in every single region. This one was only in 6 regions, and that was based off of a survey that was sent out about you know, what things people wanted to see, how many people answered the survey. They took a lot of things into consideration when they selected these. So I just wanted to make sure that we saw that. And the other thing I wanted to mention, this initiative is going to be on the 2026 action plan. And there was more funds allocated to it when the committee talked about that, because they wanted to add additional trainings and additional training sessions. So additional topics and additional sections across the state. But that's all I have for an update, unless you have any questions about this one.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any questions for Stephanie before we move on?
See any on time.
None online? All right, hearing no additional questions, we will move on to public comment and announcements. There were 2 written public comments that are included in your packet and linked in the agenda. I will ask Stephanie to read them aloud for the committee.
I'm sorry, if you are online, they are not linked to the agenda. I'm so sorry, I did not link it, I forgot, but I can read them if you would like me to read them out loud.
Sure.
The first one is from Tony Piontek. He says, how can we make better changes to receive better resources for education and employment, such as interns to earn their degree in this area? When and where can they get the assistance from a professional in their area of study? And are there any online study courses that are available for anyone? Have resources to start a physical fitness course for people with disabilities, teachers, fitness instructors, librarians, and other related topics that come into this area. So that was his comment. And then there's another comment from Claire Aber. That said, the UL Lafayette Life Program will begin accepting applications for its 2026-2027 freshman cohort from August 1st, 2025 to December 1st, 2025, with interviews to take place in the spring of 2026. For more information, visit, and she gave the link. So I will have this posted so that if anybody does want that link, you're able to click on that. I'll try to get that posted by but I did include it in all of the printed packets, so if you have a printed one, you have it with you. If you're online, I will get that online.
All right, we'll go on. Tomorrow is full council meeting, which will begin at 10 a.m. in this room. Please note that the adjusted schedule for council meetings due to the location. Does anyone on the committee have any announcements to make? All right, hearing none, if there are no objections, we can adjourn by unanimous consent. Any objections? No objections, I hereby adjourn this meeting at 5:27.